Family annihilation. Let those harsh words filter through your brain. And while they're filtering through your brain, welcome, brothers and the occasional sister to the Bro Check Club. It's a topic that I've been having going round and around my head after a conversation last week with a bloke who's actually going to come out and see me this week. This happened inside his family. The reason I want to talk about it on the Bro Check Club is this channel is to discuss topics for men, about men, to find solutions for problems, but also to address the things that we don't talk about. And today's topic is a pretty deep and dark one. And this affects predominantly white males. Other cultures do it. There's plenty of other cultures where it happens too, but it's predominantly, again and again, it's white males doing it. Not always. And what often happens is the father, he will kill everybody in the family, or at least try to kill him. He may not always succeed, but that's his intention. And at the end, it often ends up with him taking his own life, suicide. So why is it? Well, it's a real symptom of our sick society that we live in, and us men deal with things that we don't know how to deal with, which have changed so rapidly because of how we humans have created this system that we live in. And it changes in different countries and different cultures, but amongst us white males it doesn't serve us very well. Often the men will feel that do this to their families, they'll feel like that their earning capacity has become so low, they've either failed in a business they've started or a business venture, or they've failed at their work, and they feel they can't provide for their family anymore. And it's a sick way of thinking, we're not going to survive, so I'm going to take us all down before it gets worse, which is crazy to think of, but that's part of the problem. Often the perpetrators of this have a history of being violent towards their partners and also their children, and it's an extension of them feeling like they're losing power, and it's the final gain of power in the relationship with the family. It has no logic really, but it's deep-rooted in the primitive layers of our brain. Now, I'm not qualified to analyse and break this down. I've only been researching it since I talked to a guy the other day, so I don't know a lot more than a psychologist would know, breaking it down, or even a psychiatrist for that matter. But what I do know is I've heard it pop up in my feed more times than I care to wish. You know, it looks like the model family. He was really successful, a good-looking guy, happened to a family in Australia, killed his children. And mothers have done it too, but predominantly it's us men. And the solution to the problem for any men out there that are feeling undervalued or feeling they can't sustain the facade that they've been trying to hold up to look like the perfect family on social media, when everything, the whole house of cards comes tumbling down, the solution is for those guys and their buddies around them to connect up with each other and come together as a group. Because trying to solve these sorts of problems by yourself it all gets bottled up. Not that I have any experience in it, but I know from other problems I've helped men with that as soon as we put them in a group, and a classic example would be young Damo that stayed with me for a year and a half. I looked after Damo for a year and a half here on the farm. He had the other batch up there, and for a year and a half all he had to do was to stay here. He had to work upon himself each day, get himself clean, eat clean food, get off what he was taking. And Damo did something very cool. Every day he journaled what he was feeling. Now when we write things down, we make affirmations. And he would write down what his plan was going to be for the day, what he was going to do to become better, how he was going to get through, how he was going to learn to respond in difficult situations rather than react. And Damo went away from here, and today he's got both his diving tickets, his 30 metre and his 50 metre, and he's a man back in the world that's doing really well. But he took action, and he joined up with a man's group, and every Tuesday I think it was, they would sit round and they would share. So when you're in a group, there's real clear evidence that these group types of sitting around, you can call it therapy if you want, I like to call it hanging out with mates myself, because therapy is a little bit airy-fairy sort of, I mean it is a therapy, but everything's a therapy. I've just been for a run around the paddock, that was my therapy. It didn't turn out too good actually. I'll share a wee story of that. It actually turned pear-shaped, but I'll bring that story at the end of that, because that's quite an interesting story. But we get into these groups, and what happens is we realise, A, we're not alone, B, it's not as bad as we thought it was, and C, there's other brothers brainstorming solutions for those problems. So there is a pathway through it, but it means you spotting your mate that's in trouble before it gets too bad, and it's about the guy being in trouble reaching out, which seldom happens because these guys have got a facade. They're trying to create of everything being good all the time, and it's all bullshit. And a lot of people do it. Not just guys like that. A lot of people have facades, the perfect family. A lot of people try to paint the perfect... I mean, how many perfect families are there really out there? According to my feed on social media, everybody's got a perfect family except me. Because my family's not perfect. Far from it. And it creates this false world, and social media is partly to blame for that, but we also are too, by instigating it and perpetuating it by keeping on posting things and always talking about how great everything's going, when things aren't always going great. I mean, things have been going great for me lately, but they took a downturn just before when I was walking the dogs, and I want to share that with you now. So, gotta go step it back a bit further. There's a bloke, I'm sure he's a nice bloke, he's about my age, another old bugger. He was taking a cigarette break the other day while he was weed whacking. He's weed whacking along the neighbour's fence here. You might better hear the weed whacker going now. He's still there. Too far away. But he's weed whacking right now as I speak with you. And the last time I went around there, he's got this great big mastiff. Lovely big old dog. Beautiful big old boy. But he's got him walking around on the loose. And I've got 3 dogs. And they're pig dogs. And Pace is a wanker. He wants to fight everything. And so... it's not a good idea to have a big old mastiff. Pace doesn't care how big you are. Pace thinks in his head that he's massive, you know, and he's got small man syndrome tied into a dog. So last time I was walking around, this big old mastiff comes on over and sort of wags his tail. All the other dogs and my dogs are through the fence, and the big old mastiff's like, and my dog's Pace is like want to eat him. So the guy, the weed whacker, was going on with the weed whacker, and I said, "Hey mate," and he couldn't hear me, and I was just waiting for him to finish. Finally finished. He takes the earmuffs on. I said, "Look, brother, put your dog on a rope when you're here. I've got 3 dogs. Your dog is coming on onto my property. I've got a fence in between, but they want to fight because they consider this is their land, which it is, and your dog is considered a threat, and they're just going to do naturally what dogs do. They're going to defend their territory and pack on your dog. So just keep him on a rope." Understood. All good. Anyway, I thought that got through to his head. Going for a walk this morning, and I'm having I had a bit of a hard night last night. My variable heart rate was really up and down for some reason. Full moon, I don't know, but probably I had a pretty emotional weekend actually. I had to write a song for somebody who was killed in an accident, and it just knocked me a bit. Could have been that, I don't know. So I didn't get a good night's sleep. So I thought I'd go for a peaceful walk around the paddock. I'll chew on a bit of self-heal. It's a herb that grows there. Not that it's going to do much for that, because I felt pretty whacked. And I'll just get my heart rate down, doing some deep breathing. And the funny thing was, I took my phone out, because I don't normally walk with my phone. I took the phone out, and I think of my feed, and it talked about how dogs can tap into our cortisol levels. And some people, I don't have my dogs inside unless they're injured, but some people's dogs can tell when they're sick or tap into their cortisol levels. I was reading that thinking, that's really quite true. It says if your dog puts its paw on you in the night, you could be having some sleep arrhythmias, or like heart arrhythmias, or you could be having some sleep apnea, or you could be having some atrial fibrillation, or something could be going on, and your dog can know because your cortisol levels rise and they're tuned into that. Now my dog Pace put his paw onto me when I got cancer 7 years ago, and we kept on thinking I had some food on my thing, so he changed the shirt, but he still did it, and he was putting his nose in there. He knew something was wrong. I digress a bit. Let's get back to walking around the paddock. So anyway, we go around a day, and I'm looking on my phone, and next minute I look around and my dog's up by my feet. And here is this bloody big dog, this guy, he's weed whacking again, and he's grabbed Pace through the fence. No doubt he's gone up the fence to say hi to Pace, and Pace has gone through, but he's actually grabbed Pace. And Pace is like round the neck, and the dog's got him, and I went, the big, I've still got a sore throat from saying it, so I'm not going to do it again, but screamed in my biggest voice, "Get out of there," but really in a big voice. And the dog, he let him go, which was amazing because normally dogs don't. Because he was kind of playing a bit, I guess. I don't think he's a bad dog. Mastiffs are pretty buffy. But then Johnny joined in. So I had both of my dogs by both collars pulling them apart, and I'm whistling to the guy because I've run out of voice. He's on the wee whack and he's got the earmuffs on, he's blindly working away there, back and forth like this. And he's not hearing me. And eventually the bloody collar breaks on one dog, and then the other one slips off the other. Now they're on the loose again. So now I'm having to grab them by the scruff of the neck, and my heart's going through the roof. Lucky I'm a fit unit, because, you know, give an old man a heart attack. And it's the last thing I needed. Eventually he looks around, and he's looking around, and he sees me, and I'm like waving, and his dog's there, and he, come on over. Well, I was full of rage. I was ready to tear that guy's head off. I got into fight or flight. I was coming from my sympathetic nervous system rather than my parasympathetic nervous system. I wasn't sitting there and rest and digest. I was in fight or flight, and I wanted to fight him. Now that's an unnatural. That's an unnatural. No, let me say that again. That's a natural, illogical thing to have. The fight bit is like, I told you once, mate, keep your dog tied up. You didn't listen. Now I've suffered all this. It could have killed your dog. Could have killed my dogs. I'm raging. And I could see myself about to unbarrel onto him. So all I said was, I told you to keep your dog tied up, mate. And I grabbed mine and I walked away. I walked around the paddock, did some deep, deep breathing. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Let it go, Clay. Let it go, mate. But I couldn't let it go because the brain's going, I should call the dog ranger, because if this happens again, I'm probably going to end up shooting his dog. And I need there to be a history. And I thought, you know, that's not the right way either. He's just a bloke doing his weed whacking. He hasn't really thought it through. He's not a bad rooster. He's just a guy working. So I got around the paddock and I went round and I made sure the gate was shut so my dogs couldn't go through. And he was working, and I called him over. And I shouted out to him, and this time I didn't react. I responded. I said, mate, you didn't see what happened before because you had your head down, your ass up, and you're working, and you couldn't hear anything because of the machine and the earmuffs. But your dog had a crack at my dog through the fence. Your dog should not have even been on my property because it was on my driveway. He's on the property next door. So I've got a fence in my paddock and he's over there. I said, I managed to break it up by myself. I was calling for you, but obviously you couldn't hear me because you had your earmuffs on and the machine was going. And I was screaming and calling and losing my voice. Eventually, by the time you poked your head up, it all calmed down. Now, this could have all been avoided. It could have been much worse. If my dogs had got through the fence, they would have packed on your dog and they would have fought to the bitter end. All my dogs are pig dogs, and if they pack on another dog, they're not aggressive by nature. I've got rid of my aggressive dogs, but they have a packing mentality, and they see your dog as a threat because it's coming onto their property, which it is their property. The second thing is, it's illegal for you to have your dog running loose up and down a driveway. You've got to keep it contained. Now, I don't want to call the dog ranger, and you don't want me to call the dog ranger, and I don't want to see your dog hurt, and I don't want to see my dogs hurt. And this could all be avoided if you just done what I asked you to do the first time. Is that a fair comment? Yeah. Then I asked him his name, which I won't repeat. I tell him who my name is, so we on name. And I said, okay, well, let's not let it happen again. I pulled a piece of rope out of my pocket and held it up and said, that's all you need to fix this problem. Do it, please. Fair enough? Yep. Now, there was more I wanted to say, but that would have been me reacting. You know, like the other part of my brain is going, what was it you didn't understand last time about me saying, keep your dog tied up when you're working beside my property? What was it, you know, I wanted to, that be putting him down? That's not going to help him, and that's all it's doing is me reacting. And I have to struggle with myself because some of us run away from situations. There's fight or flight in a situation. My brother Tristan, he's absolutely passive. But for me, it's I want to fight everything. And that's something I struggle with. That's my own anger, it's my own issue, and I'm aware of it, and I struggle with it. I really struggle with dealing with my my wanting to fight. I used to when I was younger. I used to get in terrible fights, and it just resolves nothing. It hurts you, it hurts the other person. No winners in the end, and I would find ways to justify my anger. Because often with that sort of thing, when you lash out at somebody, you find a way to justify it, and that's in itself is just another twisted part of how the psyche works in us men. We'll do things, and men that are aggressive to their woman, which I fucking hate. Sorry, my language. Aggressive, or their children, they also justify it. Somehow in my brain, men fighting men is completely okay. I've just grown up that way. But it's actually not. You're hurting another brother. And you're doing it because of what's inside you. And it's like this, and I saw this analogy the other day. I think I might have spoken it to somebody or not, I can't remember. But this guy, he goes, if you have an orange and you squeeze it really hard, you think you get grapefruit juice out of it? No, you get orange juice. What if you squeeze it really, really hard? Would you get pineapple juice? No. What if you stick it in a vice really, really hard? Would you get maybe pomegranate juice? No, you always get orange juice out of an orange because that's what's inside it. When someone squeezes you, it's the same thing. What comes out when you're squeezed, and for me, it's often anger, a deep-rooted anger. And I don't know how you deal with that, the actual anger itself and make it go away, but what I do know is I can teach myself, and I have done, to not react, but to rather respond, as I've done with this guy here. Now, I've gone away from the situation. I haven't called the dog ranger. He knows what's going on. He might be feeling a bit shit. That's okay, because he made a mistake. And I haven't gone over and given him a smack or anything stupid like that. So I haven't done anything wrong. My dog's okay. So at the end of it, there is a solution to the problem. Yeah. It's funny because I started off talking about another story, but it's gone into that story there, which often happens on the Project Club. I needed to get this out. I needed to talk about it because it's still in me, and now I feel a lot better because I'm putting it out there. I could, of course, just hit the off button on the phone and never send it, but I'll post it anyway because it's entertaining, isn't it? And it's also food for you to think about of your own anger. If you're someone like me, do you sometimes react rather than respond? And if so, how do you deal with it, you know? That's all. Go steady. We'll see you next Project Club video. See you later.